lights go dim, it's time to find out what's within. Behind the camera, there's so much more. With Andy Games, let's explore. Behind the camera with Andy Games, meet the streamers, learn their names. Off the screen, who are they? Tune in now, don't delay.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera with Andy Games. This is the podcast where I interview people from the world of content creation and beyond with the sole purpose of getting to know the person a little bit better behind the camera. In this episode, I sat down with Jed Shaffer. Jed is a husband and father of three and also co-hosts the podcast First Gen Gamers, where he and his co-host celebrate the history of gaming one console generation at a time. Jed has been a gamer for almost 40 years and is also a fan of horror movies, the MCU, and professional wrestling, having wrote the popular column Rewriting the Book on WrestleCrap for a decade. Here is the interview. Jed, thanks so much for taking the time to join me on Behind the Camera with Andy Games today. How are we doing, sir?
I'm doing great on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Of course. No, I've been looking forward to this too, and obviously very welcome on the podcast. So let's get straight into it. We definitely have a lot to cover today. Very interesting story and a lot of like-minded sort of interests in terms of gaming, podcasting, wrestling, you name it. So I'm very, very excited for this one. So you know what? Without further ado, let's just get into it. So take us back to the beginning. Obviously, you host your own sort of gaming-related podcasts, but obviously being a gamer yourself, tell us about your journey with that. Like, how did you get into that, and then how then did you take it into your sort of like later life?
So I've been gaming. I'll be 48 the next time my birthday rolls around in a couple months. I've been gaming over 40 years. I want to say 81, 82, somewhere around there. I remember just seeing the arcade machines, and they don't call them attract screens for nothing. The demo mode.
Oh yeah.
They call them attract screens because they're meant to attract you, and they attracted my 5-year-old little brain, and that was it. It was really off to the races there. I'm not sure if my first game was either Joust or Moon Patrol. It's kind of fuzzy, but I know those were my first two big video game loves, and I constantly begged my parents for quarters, and after a little while, they thought, you know what? Maybe we should get him one at home. That way he can stop asking us for quarters, which didn't work.
Never does.
No. Well, now I could just play it in two different places. I can play it at home and at the grocery store. And I've never stopped playing. I know, some people are like, yeah, I played it when I was a kid. I gave it up when I was a teenager because girls or homework or whatever. No, I've consistently had at least one video game console since like the age of 5, and it's just all throughout the years. And it dovetailed into the idea of a podcast when I wanted to be a radio DJ for the longest time. That was a desire that I had when I was a teenager. It never really panned out. Radio is a really hard market to get into here in the United States. Very, very challenging industry, not only to get into, but to make a living at.
Yeah.
It usually involves a lot of travel. And by the time that the opportunity to go to school for it and pursue it as a career came up, by the time I was of age to do it, I was in a position where my life was no longer worked for me.
Yeah.
And then over time, podcasting became a thing. And it was a couple of years ago that I had the idea, because I've done some other podcasts. I had a wrestling podcast, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I can't even remember anymore. And I thought, you love video games, you love podcasting. Let's do something with that. And the whole idea of the podcast ended up coming from watching other content creators and looking at video game websites, IGN, Polygon, stuff like that, and seeing that a lot of them, and I don't blame them for us, they're going for the main market right now, the main demographic, the younger people,
Yeah.
20s and 30s, and I'm almost 50. I'm not the target demo anymore. But by going after that demo, they're ignoring a lot of history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, when you see like a top 10 list, that's really what kicked it off, was seeing top 10 lists, whether it was on YouTube or whether it was on these websites. And they would be like, top 10 RPGs or top 10 platforming games. And every game was from the past 10 years. It's like, okay, where's Super Mario Brothers 3? Where's Phantasy Star? Where's the representation from the Nintendo and the Genesis and the TurboGrafx and the Neo Geo? Where's the history? And that's kind of all those things coming together is what ended up building First Gen Gamers as a podcast, was me wanting to celebrate all of history. If the topic is best horror games, to force us as part of the show's gimmick to look at the Nintendo and the Atari and the Sega Genesis and all of those generations and say to anyone listening, look, yes, there are great, the games in the past 10, 15 years are amazing, but don't sleep on the old stuff, because the old stuff, the new stuff, the reason you got the new stuff is the old stuff happened first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. Like, as much as retro is kind of making a comeback these days in terms of like mainstream media, like things like IGN and things, it's like slept on. There is that focus on the now, the modern, and it does kind of take away that sort of history for those other consoles and stuff. And it's so I absolutely love what you're doing with that, and I think it's important to kind of not let that die out as well. Because to tell you another thing that's making a comeback too, particularly where I live, like in the UK, it's retro arcades, like pop-up retro arcades. They're making a comeback, and it's a sort of thing, either you'll pay like an entry fee into like a hall somewhere, or if you're in a bar, you can buy tokens, specially made tokens for this, and then you have like unlimited access, or as much access as you have tokens. That's like really making a comeback, but part of me kind of feels that the appreciation is kind of not 100% there, because it's people reliving like their nostalgia for a night, for a day, but that's kind of where it starts and ends. But it's sort of, you can't let these things die out, because like, as for everything that you just told me, it's always been a huge part of your life, and it's something that's only progressed. So it's something that, like, and I mean, I can give you like my own personal sort of take on it is, I never got past Nintendo 64 and PS2 myself. Like, I was like 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old, whenever we got the N64. I was like, me and my two older brothers at the time, we got the N64 collectively for Christmas, and I just claimed it. They all moved on, and we're talking some nearly 30 years on. I'm still rocking that. So you gotta just kind of keep it going. You gotta keep it going.
Yeah, it's a harmless activity. It okay. It can be an expensive hobby, but if I'm sitting there on my couch, just about 4 feet to the right of me is here in my office is my love seat. My office doubles as my game room.
Yep.
And right behind me, you can't see because I'm blocking it, but right behind me is my TV with I got a PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 5, a Switch, a Raspberry Pi, and there's a Wii in the basement. I've got an analog pocket. It's just fun. I can kick back, and whether I'm playing a chill game like Tetris or whether I'm playing something intense like Baldur's Gate, it's just a harmless thing to do. Yeah. I can share it with friends. I've got friends through a Discord server where, every once a month or so, we'll get together and we'll play Mario Party.
Amazing.
I mean, Mario Party, they live in California. I'm in Michigan. But they and me and my wife will sit down and we'll play Mario Party, and we'll swear a lot because Mario Party is guaranteed to make you want to hate all your choices in life.
Yep.
But it's fun in a sick,
Oh,
self-punishing way.
absolutely. Yeah. Like, I don't think I've ever resonated with something so much because every time me and my wife play Mario Party, the what she comes out with.
Oh yeah.
And it's always directed towards Peach as well, and I don't understand. It's like every single time we play, she gets screwed over. It's always by Peach, and my God, like it's something to behold. The sort of the words I never ever thought she'd ever say come out like, and it's just all part of it, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. And it's and as much as it drives me nuts, it's part of the fun. It's because even though you're frustrated, you still have that bonding experience with whether it's with your spouse, whether it's your buddies. It's just a fun thing to do, whether it's solo or with people.
Mm.
And and to tie it back to the whole thing of history of, I mean, that's what video games have always been, whether it was the NES and you're passing your brother the controller to, take turns on Mario, or I remember when I was a teenager in the mid 90s, I had a couple of buddies. We were a trio, and uh, he had a multi-tap for the Sega Saturn, so
Yeah.
we could all play together. And our favorite game was NBA Live 97 at the time. We would turn off all the penalties. We would make our own characters and boost every stat to 99. And then we would play together against the computer, and we would run up the score. It would be like Bulls 602, Jazz 4.
But that's, I love that because even when you do things like that, obviously it's like you do it because it's a joke, and because you can, you found the settings. It's like, here, well, I can do this. Why not?
Yep.
But at the same time, like, it's almost just as fun trying to challenge yourself to get as high a possible score based on the maximum time limit versus the maximum stats, and then just kind of go with that. It does, like, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun even just doing that, and it's sort of I always find, like, with sort of old games like that, because obviously games from the 90s, early 2000s, they were a lot shorter than what they are now. You would very, very seldom find like a game that you could rack up like 30 to 40 hours of story mode on back then. Um but it was the ability to just do things like that is really kind of what just is how you were going to get those types of hours back then.
Yeah. I remember there was another game from that same era on the original PlayStation called Monster Rancher. It was kind of a Pokemon game, except for Pokemon was more of an RPG. You're going around randomly generated battles. Monster Rancher really was about the upbringing and training of the monsters. So you stayed on the farm and
Oh.
you trained them through different activities. So, pulling the wagon increased strength and awareness and life and stuff like that. And then you raise them to go and participate in one-on-one battles. But the other gimmick of Monster Rancher was that to create the monsters, you could use other CDs.
Okay.
So you would go to this part in the game, the shrine, and you'd create monsters. So until you open the PlayStation, take out the disc. So you would, and then you'd go and you grab a CD, whether it was the soundtrack to Titanic or it was Slayer's Rain and Blood. It didn't, whatever you want. And it would read the data on there and it would create a monster based off that. Well, I had 150 CDs. My buddy had 100 CDs. My other buddy had 100 CDs. And we had some crossover, but this guy liked rap more and this guy liked this more. And so we would all meet at one place and we would we would run through our entire CD collection and write them down and be like, okay, Nirvana's Nevermind gave us a lion with blue fur. Nirvana's In Utero gave us a dinosaur with red scales. Again, that was just a one-player game, but still we turned it into that kind of communal experience just through the game's mechanics.
That is incredible. Like, I've that's not something you ever really would associate an older console and game with being able to do. Like I remember the first Metal Gear Solid game when you get to one of the bosses, and you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Where you have to
Oh yeah.
change the you have to change the controller over to the second port, and that's how you're able to, because it can just read your moves and it just kind of disables it. You know, people kind of associate things like that. That's what they associate it with, but like a game like that being able to read other CDs and stuff, that is totally unheard of. I am surprised that people don't people don't know that more than like the Metal Gear Solid thing. There was actually another one that came up as well that somebody actually, I think it was actually somebody talked about that yesterday. I was streaming and somebody mentioned about that being able to read the contents of another disc or your memory card or something. So it was either the same thing or something similar, but it is amazing. And like I think it's the sort of thing that the generation now playing games and all these like AAA games, they missed out on some iconic things, and like it's important to sort of keep that alive. So on that as well, your podcast for first gen gamers, as we just sort of briefly talked about that. So tell us about the sort of premise of it, and just sort of what the sort of structure format is, and everything like that.
Sure. So we have two episode formats. I co-host it with a woman named Ashley. My episodes, I should say we alternate.
Mm-hmm.
The first episode of the month, which is on the first Monday of the month, if I'm not mistaken. So that is what we call a list based episode. But instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we go through each generation.
Yep.
And there's a topic. So just for the sake of argument, best platformer. So we'll say the topic is best platformer, and then we have to pick one nominee from each generation. So second generation, that's Atari 2600, Atari 5200, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Vectrex. So we got to find one. She's got to find one platformer, and I've got to find one platformer. And we talk about it and why we picked each one of those games. And then we move on to the next generation, and so on throughout all of them, thereby kind of maximizing that historical value.
Yeah.
There's no way to get around not mentioning a platformer or whatever the topic may be from older generations, because that's the structure. The other structure episode is a little more free form, but Ashley's a little younger than me, so she's a little more social media savvy. So to try and appeal to the younger people, that one is a little more younger topic focused, but still making sure to capture with the history. So for instance, the first one episode that we did of those was about simulation games.
Yep.
And so she was starting off with she was referencing Power Wash Simulator and Construction Simulator and stuff like that. And when I started talking about it, it was, well, this generation, or I'm sorry, this genre started off with Sim City and Sim Earth,
Yep.
and Aerobiz, and games, games going back that far, the entire Sim series for that matter. So we still got the historical context without having to pick favorites. It was just more of an overview.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We alternate between the two. We have a list-based episode and then more of an open dialogue episode.
Brilliant. I did listen to one of your recent episodes, the Would You Rather episode. I was particularly a fan of that. It was just a lot of creative questions in there. One that did stick out to me particularly was a crossover, and the world of Sonic and Mario being crossed over was mentioned in the episode, and I was kind of like particularly interested in that one, because it's a sort of thing, like obviously we have these like iconic franchises from back in the day, like Mario, Sonic, like that. But now with like ROM hacking has now become like such a big thing for these, like for emulation.
Hmm.
and you genuinely like the thing I like about it is that like it really does show the sort of depths of the human imagination, like because like you know you envision what would it look like if Sonic was in Princess Peach's castle. Look no further, it's a Google search away and there's somebody would have made a game of it now. It's but it was just incredible, and I love the format of everything that you just said. I think it is important to kind of keep that sort of historical base just kind of going, and just it's something that's like, you know, if the right ears hear it from like this younger generation now who are used to like their PC gaming or their Xbox, whatever the latest Xbox is. I don't know. I'm a PlayStation guy.
So am I.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You know, PS5, etc., and all these like sort of cross-gen kind of games, cross-platform, and everything. That's what it really is. Like, what I kind of think people didn't necessarily, people don't realize now is that like if you wanted to play certain things back in the day, you had to have multiple consoles, but that was never an option back then, like back in the day. I think, like, off the top of my head, like every household, 80s, 90s, was one console. You know, you're
Hmm.
talking an Atari, Sega, or a Nintendo. And then PlayStation did come a little bit after, but they were like the sort of top three, I would say, like in the 90s. And now it's just you either need a computer, Xbox or PlayStation, and you're set. I suppose a Switch as well. I think Switch, I don't think did the best at the cross-platform stuff, but it is it's good for its own stuff. Like Nintendo generally, like, especially with like the Switch 2 coming out, that's going to be quite interesting to see. I think. Well, by the time this airs, the Nintendo Direct will have already happened, but it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Nintendo's Switch 2. Not I have a Switch, so I'm not slagging on Nintendo. Nintendo, you buy a Nintendo console because you want the Nintendo experience,
Yep.
not because you want the strongest, the fastest, the most horsepower. You buy it because you want Nintendo's ecosystem.
Yep.
You
100%.
want Mario, you want Zelda, you want Metroid, Kirby, all of that. Switch to Nintendo has never done the transition from one generation to another very well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you look at their history, the only time that they have won, heavy air quotes, uh, two generations consecutively, and the only metric I'm using here is console sales, was NES and Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
They've
100%.
not won two consecutive since.
No.
Super Nintendo, then N64. It did not perform. It did not perform to what they thought it was going to. GameCube cratered.
Oh
We
yeah.
went through the roof, but it was a casual sales thing. Wii U might as well have not even happened.
100%.
And then the Switch, which is now like it's either the best-selling console of all time or the second best. I can't remember which, but it's like neck and neck with the PlayStation 2. I don't know if Nintendo's going to get too cocky and think that they can do no wrong, or if they've really learned lessons and will deliver on what people have been wanting that the Switch was lacking. It will be very interesting to see what the Nintendo Direct has in a couple. Well, by the time this comes out, it will have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% know what you mean, because when you look at like all the consoles Nintendo have released and compare to other platforms like Xbox and PlayStation, for example, you know, like Xbox and PlayStation, they have kind of followed the same sort of pattern throughout every single generation. It's just been like a lot more optimized and just yeah, just better resolution, better optimization, things like that. But they've kind of kept the core sort of value the same. Whereas Nintendo didn't really do that after the NES and the SNES. They were like the two sort of like The SNES was like the upgrade of the NES, for example, the same way that the PS2 is the PS1. The way I would see it. But then obviously with N64, they went into sort of 3D games, and I'm surprised it didn't do as well as it should have, to be honest, because I thought it was as iconic as anything, and like the sort of upscale that had from the Super Nintendo like was the next level, like for some of the games especially. But then GameCube, I think personally, it was almost trying to like compete with the likes of the PS2, and I suppose the what is it be as far as the Xbox, probably just a normal Xbox at this point.
Yes.
I think it was maybe trying to compete a little bit too much with that, because that was like the sort of the first Nintendo console that had more games that were available across multiple platforms, but none of them were as good on the GameCube in comparison to like the Xbox or the PS2. The Wii kind of a bit. It was the Wii to me was like a completely new sort of I would say quite revolutionary, because PlayStation were doing things like that sort of beforehand, but they kind of branched away. The Wii, obviously, with the joysticks, the hands, motion controls, a little bit different. And then the Wii U is what the Switch should have been. Oh no, sorry, the other way around. Oh god, that's a sin if anybody. The Switch.
It was like a prototype.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of think, like, obviously, like, I'm kind of going on and on a bit here, but like, I personally think that the Switch 2 is kind of their sort of way of like, if this is our us going into like continuation phase, in terms of we're not trying to be too different anymore, too innovative, this, that, and the other, but we are just bringing you a console that has worked, better optimized, better updates and everything, and allowing it to be more user friendly, and everything that the kind of, well, everything the other consoles have been doing for years, but they've just kind of almost succumbed to that. But I guess in a way, obviously, what Nintendo is known for is like the particular franchises. It kind of allows them to sort of develop those a lot better, which kind of, in a way, kind of should hopefully keep them up afloat still.
If Nintendo is smart, that is what they do. Just push the fact that this is Switch, but much better.
Yep.
Not necessarily the fastest horse in the race, but the best Nintendo experience you're going to get. You're not going to find a better version, everything that you loved about the Switch, one step beyond. If they're smart, that's what they do here. They don't get cocky. They don't act like, hey, we dominated the last time around, come take us on, shoulder brush. When they do that, that's when they fall on their face, because as much as those iconic franchises that they have are moneymakers, because a new Zelda is an experience, a new Mario is an experience. Those things are singular. You can't get them anywhere else. And Nintendo, 99% of the time, puts out an incredibly, immaculately polished product.
Oh, yeah.
But Mario sells to Mario fans. Mario doesn't sell to Call of Duty fans. And that's the challenge, is how can we get this to sell to everybody? How can we, just as the Switch, everyone bought in on the Switch, what, 150 million or whatever it is at this point?
Like that, yeah.
They got to do that all over again.
Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the sort of best things that they did early doors was stress the backwards compatibility. Because if that wasn't a thing, people are still buying the Switch to this day. Like, they haven't discontinued the Switch. So people are still going to buy it, especially if that becomes a cheaper alternative to Switch 2. People are still going to be buying it, but then more people are going to start buying the Switch 2. So at the same time, that could cause some disconnect. So the backwards compatibility, and as long as they kind of also stretch that to the online capabilities, that if you're able to play on a Switch 2 against somebody or with somebody on a normal Switch, then that would also, I think, kind of help. But it's one of those things. It's hard to kind of forecast, but you want it to do well. But I kind of think, as a fan of Nintendo, it's kind of hard to just be like, they've had their pitfalls in the past. Like, if it wasn't for the Switch, they might not even be there anymore. So it's sort of yeah, it's kind of funny because you don't really hear this about any other console. You only ever hear it about Nintendo. Is like there's always this kind of air of caution about when they release a new console. Like, is this gonna do well, or is this gonna be? They're very touch and go.
And I that is both a benefit and a curse to them,
Yeah.
because the PlayStation is a model of consistency. The setting aside the PlayStation 3's early stumbles, it recovered nicely
Mhm.
and it delivered more of the PlayStation experience. And the 4 delivered even more, and the 5 delivered even more. But it's also a case of every machine is a little iterative. Like
Yeah.
there's a hard cut between each one, especially maybe not so much the NES and the Super Nintendo, but after that, every machine has a unique identity. And that's what Nintendo's really going to have to stress here. Or that's the challenge that they're going to have to deal with is, does the Switch have a unique identity? Why do I need to get that Switch 2? What does this offer me that the Switch doesn't? Okay, yeah, it's going to be more optimized. It's going to have better graphics. It might have a better online infrastructure, but I can still play Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch. I can still play Metroid Prime 4 should that ever freaking see the light of day. Um, I don't care that they said 2025 in that trailer the other day. They didn't give a date.
No.
As far as I'm concerned, that thing still doesn't exist until it's in my hands.
It's like the GTA 6 of Nintendo, isn't it? At this
Oh yeah,
point.
absolutely. That thing is like, they keep saying it and I'll believe it when I've bought it. And
Yeah.
even then I might look at it, I might be looking at the box in my hands and going, I'm going to open this up and it's going to be Metroid Prime remastered. I just freaking know
Yeah, you just have it in your hand and then all of a sudden you wake up.
it. No, they're so close.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's I do love that. But so on the still on the topic of podcasts as well, you also host another podcast, the Gamer Parents Strategy Guide. What can you tell us about this?
Well, that actually isn't really in existence anymore. It
Oh,
was kind of a precursor. But I mean, the episodes are still out there if any people wanted to check it out. Uh, my first thought when doing a video game podcast was, again, to do something that no one else was doing. And the whole idea of it was gaming usually gets blamed for a lot in the media.
yeah.
GTA has caused the car theft rates in Indianapolis to shoot through the roof. No, it hasn't. You know, cars, school violence and shootings have gone through the roof since video games. Actually, no, there's the crime rate has dropped since video games since the year 2000. A lot of those types of stupid arguments that are the versions of the same arguments that we've heard about rock and roll and horror movies
Yeah.
and beach party movies and Elvis and the Beatles. Like, it's the same argument, just a new target. And so the original idea of that was, I'm a parent, I'm a gamer, so I kind of am on the inside of it. Let's speak to other parents, other gamers, and say, if you're kind of confused about the landscape, here's a more positive resource, a more positive outlook from the inside, rather than some stuffed shirt from a university, or rather than someone who's never picked up a video game controller but
Yeah.
insists that they're the worst thing on earth. So that was the idea behind it. I just, I never felt, I never got comfortable with it. It never got the legs that I wanted it to. And then the idea for first gen gamers grabbed me, and I kind of had an ADD moment of, ooh, that new shiny, and and here we are.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an important message to send across because like you see in the news, like you were saying there, like video games are blamed on like crime rates or something, but like you said, all it takes is just a quick search to realize no, this is not true, and it's I've never understood people saying that there's a correlation between video games and real life violence. I've never ever understood that. Like, I mean, you know, you look at kids like they play, they have access to like sort of playing these like violent video games, but it really doesn't extend further than like playground antics. And like, you know, even when you're like older, I don't think I've ever in my life, like, I've never played GTA, driven my car on the pavement the entire way, because what else would you do in GTA if you don't want to do the missions? And I don't think I've ever, after doing that, thought I'm gonna do that in real life. And I don't think very many people do, or at least as many as the media likes to sort of tell us. It's such a it's such a strange thing, and like I can't say it's something I will ever understand, but do you think that having that previous podcast was something that kind of gave you the love for podcasting itself, or was this something that you'd wanted to do before and you thought that this was like a good way in which, in when you look at it with the sort of conception of first gen gamers, kind of was?
I had actually hosted a podcast. Actually, now that I think about it, I had hosted two podcasts prior to Gamer Parent Strategy Guide. So I was already I'd already spent some time in the pool, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But for various reasons, those podcasts didn't work out, or they just kind of ran their course. And Gamer Parent Strategy Guide, what it whetted my appetite for was that the other podcasts, they never felt like the right fit. I liked doing them because I liked the idea of broadcasting, but it never felt something where I was 100% comfortable with. Whereas Gamer Parent Strategy Guide, because I've been a lifelong gamer, it was the core of it was a natural fit. It was bringing together this thing that I love with this thing that I've wanted to pursue, and in putting them together. It was just the wrong approach to it, but it definitely, if I hadn't have done that, I don't think first gen gamers would have happened. I think one did lead to the other. It was just a matter of it's kind of like those baby toys where they got to put the shape into the little hole. First gen gamers was, taking the square but turning it 45 degrees so it's like a diamond.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Gamer Parent Strategy Guide was like that. And first gen gamers was me going, okay, turn it a little. Now it fits.
Yeah. Podcasting really is like, every with every episode you do, you're learning something new about yourself, your delivery, and it's one of those things where if you want to be consistent with it, then that's how you know, I think it's a right fit. You know that the podcast you're doing is, it's good for you. It's sort of not going to run its course, or at least anytime soon. I kind of think anybody who is getting into podcasting or has probably come across those same stumbling blocks where, because I think most people who've done it have seen somebody else do it and think, I want to give that a go, and then they realize the amount of work that actually has to go into it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, from audio quality to just general setup to scheduling is like way bigger a thing than I ever thought. Here was me thinking when I started this, like, oh, this will be easy. But you just
No.
don't know. You just don't know, and you're kind of getting into these things, and like I do think, but like it is one of those things that, like, you get into like two minds about it, where excuse me, like, at first you're like, I enjoy doing this, but I'm not sure I 100% believe a particular message. But like the actual act of doing it, the having conversations with people, talking about specific things, it's fun. It is a lot of fun. The everything in post is fun, all the editing, but I think it ultimately comes down to, do you 100% believe in the message that you're trying to get across, or do you enjoy it, sort of, I suppose, most importantly.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And I also think that something that might lure people into approaching podcasting the wrong way is how podcasting is presented in the media,
Mm-hmm.
and not from a negative sense, but when you hear podcasting or when you hear people talk about podcasting in media, they bring up the success stories, not just the success stories, the absolute pinnacle success stories. Joe Rogan, Chris Jericho, Serial, stuff like that. Podcasts with millions and millions of downloads per episode. And they have a microphone, they have a computer. How hard could it be? And I think a lot of people see that and they think easy money. How hard could it be? Just buy a $40 microphone on eBay and we're off to the races. No, you couldn't be further from the freaking
100%.
truth. This has to be something that you get into because it's like any art form. It's like drawing, it's like writing, it's like sculpting, it's like whatever. You have to believe in it and be satisfied with the end product and not be concerned about how wide it goes out.
Yeah.
I mean, do I want 100,000 listeners? Absolutely. I'd love to get ad revenue from my show. I don't, not even close. But the people who listen, I've gotten messages about it, and they've said, "I love your show. I listen every week. It's absolutely great. It's fun that you two have great conversations and bring up great topics." If I make one person's life better, just for 45 minutes once a month, cool.
Yeah.
I've done my job.
Absolutely. Like 100%. Like it's the thing I like about it as well is obviously podcasting has become, I suppose, like being in this digital age, everything has become more accessible to everybody. And podcasting is like one of those ones that is particularly highlighted as well. Like you say, all you hear about is the success stories. But there's millions and millions of podcasts out there, but most people could only really probably count on two or three hands how many they've actually ever heard of because of the reasons that you were just saying. But the thing that I think is so incredible about it is like it gives people that kind of voice to, talk about their experiences, to talk about their stories, their knowledge, everything that nobody might not have ever known before. And it's like an incredible thing. Now, on the flip side of that, you do get some podcasts that it's just two guys in their 20s are like, oh, we've got good banter. Let's talk on camera into a microphone and then see where it goes. And I'll admit, I think everybody has had that thought if they've ever wanted to get into podcasting, have a friend who they're funny with. Everybody's had that thought, and you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Totally fair, because as sort of as much of a stereotype as it is, I think it's one of those things where if you have that idea, still go for it, because even if people listen and might not be able to relate, which is something that you will learn, not everybody can relate to personal banter, which is fine. But it also then makes you realize what kind of, in a sense, what kind of broadcaster are you going to be? What kind of entertainer are you going to be? How well can you talk into a microphone? How well can you talk on camera? Keep things consistent and not let the sort of conversation dry up. Like it's one of those things where you do learn so much about yourself, but then also in like a personal way, it can do absolute wonders for your confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I did go to we here in Michigan, we have a trade school that is actually for broadcasting.
Oh wow.
And I attended it. It was in my early 20s. And like I said, I never made anything of it. It was by the time I got out, my wife and I were married. We were we were looking at starting a family thereafter, and that kind of derailed everything. But I remember going through it, and in the third and fourth semester of it, that's when you got to go into the studio. They had 4 studios in the building, a classic rock station, a pop station, I don't remember what the other ones are. And you had to go on and you anchored 45 minutes or an hour of a show, changing the CDs, changing the tapes, doing on-air banter, live. And it was only broadcast like a quarter mile around around the building, but it was still a live radio experience.
Yeah.
I was not confident at all. At that time, I was scared to talk on mic. I just didn't have the self confidence. And now, hey, put a mic in front of me, let's go. I know who I am. I found myself through, through the natural aging process, but also through being in front of it. You end up finding yourself and you find your voice, especially if you're talking about something that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Find that one thing and chase it. Don't worry about finding the sponsors and the millions of downloads. Just be passionate and let that passion come through what you say. And if there's an audience to be found, God willing, it'll happen.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You mentioned there obviously about one of the roadblockers in a sense was obviously you, your wife and yourself starting a family and stuff. So obviously you are the father of 3 boys, set of twins, and a younger son as well. Has there been a sort of influence on them from yourself with the media gaming sort of interest that you have? Has that influence kind of flowed down?
In some ways, yeah. It's kind of natural. They're all 3 of them are gamers. Absolutely. We could not be further from apart from each other as far as gamers, though. One of them, actually, all of them really like shooters and online competitive, stuff like games like that. Call of Duty, Fortnite, GTA Online. That is their stuff. I'm a solo gamer most of the time. Like I said before, occasionally play Mario Party with friends or Mario Kart with friends, but 99.9% of my gaming time is a solo story game because I like experiencing a storyline. I like solving the puzzles that are in the games. That's just how my gamer brain works. But we can still talk games. We can still talk gaming as an entity, and we still understand each other. So that's a nice thing that we have in common. We've definitely influenced their taste in movies. One twin more than the other. One of them does it have explosions? Does it have cursing? That's all. He just wants action and stupid humor, and that's fine. But the other one is like he is willing to sit down and watch slower, more character-driven movies, more story-driven movies. He'll sit down and watch Psycho. He'll sit down and watch The Thing or movies. He's got interest in The Godfather, where the other kid wouldn't make it through 15 minutes of The Godfather. So there definitely has been some media influence on them, but they've digested it in their own way, and they don't like everything that their old man likes or their mom likes. They take bits and pieces, and some of that stuff really comes with time too. Because I know that when I was in their age, my dad was like, the Beatles are great, and the Doors, and Hendrix, and that's the music you should be listening to. And I couldn't have cared less. I hated them just because he liked them. And now, do I have all 3 of them and more of those bands on my playlist? You bet I do.
There is honestly so much of that I can relate to. Honestly, like I myself, I was that kid. Are there explosions and cursing in this thing? But
boobs. Boobs needs boobs too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You just want to, as a kid, yeah. Sometimes you just want to see those oh yeah, this is what older people watch. This is what this is what I kind of feel like. It's what I resonate with. But it's nice though that that kind of influence has flown down as well in terms of obviously the types of games that you play are different, but being able to sort of share that kind of interest in gaming in general and consoles and things, that's kind of it sort of shows the depth of gaming isn't just sitting in a chair pushing buttons with playing a game, whatever game it may be. It's not there's more to it than that, and I think that's something that is definitely underappreciated with a lot of people because there's so much that goes in. It's a culture. Like it's a culture, isn't it? There's so much that goes into it, and obviously people will have differing opinions. Some more militant than others. Like some people I have met who are literally like, no Nintendo. If I don't like Nintendo, then nobody should, kind of thing. Which I mean,
Yeah.
you get that with everything, though, of course.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's like on the sort of flip side of that, it like brings so many people together in the best possible way. Like when you look at like so like Twitch streaming, for example, that's been a big thing for a number of years, but it's only getting bigger and bigger now because more people are doing it due to accessibility. People can stream from their consoles. Not everybody has a PC or is able to sort of afford all that kind of thing. So it's been made a lot more accessible to people. And now people are doing that a lot more, bringing people together. Like you can't really scroll through TikTok these days as well without seeing somebody playing Super Mario. Like at
Hmm.
least I can't anyway. That's my algorithm. And I think it's great because it keeps the retro element alive. And you could be streaming and people will come and be like, "Oh, I haven't seen this game in ages. I used to play this game all the time as a kid. Amazing." It's just like good. I'm glad that even if people have popped in for 2 minutes, people are able to come and get that little bit of nostalgia and then go about their day because you can tell that it means a lot to so many people. And it's just
Yeah.
nice to kind of like pass that down and share that, especially with your kids as well.
Yeah. So earlier you had mentioned the retro arcades. So we have a couple of them around my area. And there's one of them, a lot of cabinets. I don't think there's a cabinet in there before 1991.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe the newest air quotes game that they have is like the original Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 2, not Champion Edition, just straight up OG Street Fighter 2. Uh, and we took the older boys there. My wife and I took the older two there, and I got to walk through there and go, this is what an arcade looks like. This is how I grew up. This is my church. And these are the pews that I sat in. I sat in front of Joust. I sat in front of Moon Patrol. I sat in front of Donkey Kong. And I played these games for hours. Me and one of my twins went, as we were walking through, they have a Smash TV cabinet. And he's like, what the hell is this? I'm like, okay, we need to sit down. We need to try this. Because he'd seen Running Man, so he knew the idea of the whole game show with them,
Mm-hmm.
where you're fighting for your life. So we're like, okay, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna play this together, and we're playing it for a few minutes. And he's like, does this game ever end? Is there a boss? Is there a final level? Nope. You just keep going and killing things until you get bored.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
But they got the experience of it. They got to be in an arcade and they got to see all these games that I grew up with. And even if they weren't the shiniest pretty games, even if they weren't 60 frames per second and polygon 3D graphics, they still had a fun time and they still got to see some history of this thing that all of us love.
yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I think it's better for younger people to go and see these games, these 8-bit games with just the joystick. You have two buttons, and because it's one of those things where they look like they're incredibly simple to play, but like, talk about Street Fighter on the arcade. Oh my god, like I have watched on YouTube people playing that professionally on arcade machines, and I can't fathom how like they're able to sort of operate like and do all the combos, everything as quick as they can on like the sort of flat setup on the sort of on the arcade machine. It is just and control gaming controls aren't what they used to be. Like no, they're definitely not what they used to be. Obviously, Mortal
No.
Kombat has definitely kept it, and Street Fighter in a way, but like the rest of them are kind of like simplified now. I think maybe it's an attention span thing or what, I don't know, but it's yeah, like at the arcade ones, there I could spend all day in a retro arcade. Like I would still never win at Street Fighter. I would still never win at Tekken. Time Crisis 2 was always my favorite one in an arcade. Every retro arcade you go to for some reason. If it's like kind of goes into the 2000s, because 2000s is now apparently retro, which boy do I
It
feel
hurts my
old.
heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh my god, like it's like whenever people say the Nintendo DS is retro, sometimes I still like but
I'm the same way. Someone pointed out the other day that the Xbox 360 is, as of this year, is 20 years old,
oof.
and next year the Wii will be 20 years old.
Oh wow, that's true.
I'm
Oh my god, yeah.
like, oh, shut up! I don't want to think that. That's not fair.
You know, it's actually the funny thing about that is I look at having the Nintendo 64 since I was 3 or 4 years old, and I'm 31 now. And that to me is just like normal. It's like, yeah, great, amazing. My first ever console. And then I had the Wii from when I was 13, but the fact the Wii is turning 20 years old, that seems to be the kind of kicker for me. Like that's the sort of one that I'm like, okay, please stop. Like I don't get it, but it's yeah, that's I remember getting the Wii as well. Like Christmas 2007 I got the Wii, and I was the Wii Sports package edition, and I'll never forget this for as long as I live. Christmas morning, and like I was all like I had set up ready to play it, and I had like all of like the attachments that went onto the joystick,
Mhm.
and like I was gonna play tennis on Wii Sports. Now, I wasn't really used to motion controls in gaming at this point, and I about to set up the tennis, and I literally went for like a big smash shot, not knowing that it was just a flick of the wrist. Really, that's kind of what went for a big smash shot, and we had these like lights that had like glass light shades on. Smashed right through it. Absolutely, just glass everywhere, middle of the floor. I was like absolutely mortified. Um, yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like that's how Nintendo sort of wanted people to play the Wii, was as if it was the most interactive thing, but all it took was just a flick of the wrist like that,
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah, one light shade later, I kind of learned my lesson.
So my Wii Sports story. My buddy got he got the Wii before I did by a couple months. He got it at launch. And so he brings it over like the weekend that he gets it. And he's like, okay, we're all going to play, him and his girlfriend and me and my wife, we're all going to play Wii Sports. Okay, cool. So we start playing it. And yes, we're acting like we're, Jovan Djokovic or whatever his name is, just smashing the tennis and baseball, just hurling our arms. Everything was, because we thought it was fully interactive. You have to make the full motion to do it. And we played Wii for probably about 4 hours straight. My wife and I could not lift our right arms for a day. It was, you would have sworn that we tore our rotator cuffs
Oh
with how,
wow.
like, it was just pulling our arm up with the other arm. And, like, could you reach for that water bottle? No, I don't want to.
Man, I think everybody has a Wii Sports story. Like,
Yep.
because it was like one of those things where it was so new and innovative at the time. Like, PlayStation had done like they had the iToy and the Wii camera there, but they never really went further on with it until like their VR stuff. But Nintendo obviously they were kind of ahead with that sort of motion tech. But I definitely think that there was just a sort of not an overestimation is probably the word, is what people what people sort of thought it was going to entail, and
Yep.
I think as a result there's probably a good reason as to why the Wii initially did well, was because everybody had a Wii Sports story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And everyone, it was so intuitive, even if we were overindulging in the gestures of
Yeah,
playing it, how to play bowling, bring your arm back, swing it
yeah,
forward. Everyone knows how to do that. Everyone's been bowling. Grandma's been bowling. Your Uncle Dave's been bowling. Everyone's been bowling. So anyone can pick up that Wii controller and go bowling or play tennis or boxing or golf. And it was so intuitive to behaviors that we already had. And that was just the perfect gateway.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. They definitely got that right. So stepping aside from gaming just for a minute, you, if I'm correct in saying, you used to write a wrestling column, rewriting the book for WrestleCrap.
Yep.
What can you tell
You've
us
done
about
your
this?
research.
I have, sir. I have indeed. What can you tell us about this?
Oh man, this so it bounced around a couple of websites before for like a year or two before then, but I wrote it for WrestleCraft for about a decade in change. The idea came from I was pitching a column to another website, 411 Mania, and they initially didn't like my first idea. It was an op-ed kind of column, and they go, "Well, what else do you got? We like your writing style. We just don't want another op-ed." And I had always been a fan of the Marvel comic series What If.
Mm-hmm.
I just really liked the idea of going, let's take this story that everyone knows, and at this point in history, the story that you know turns left. We're turning right.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what's down that road.
Okay.
And so I pitched that. I just said, hey, what about a what if in wrestling? Instead of this person winning, that person wins. Instead of this person turning heel, that person doesn't turn heel, whatever it may be. And that's how it started. And after a couple of years, the guy who runs WrestleCrap, R.D. Reynolds, I had reached out to him because he had written The Death of WCW, and I always researched my columns tremendously to try to get as much real life detail as possible to put into them. And I had reached out to him about an issue about WCW. And in his response, he answered the question, and then he goes, I'm a big fan. I love your column. If you ever feel like bringing the column to WrestleCrap, you'll have a home here.
Yeah.
And about a year later, things weren't working out with the website where I was. And I said, is that offer still good? And he said, you come on over. Absolutely. And like I said, 10 years, 12 years later, I must have wrote a dozen editions for him, brought back the old ones, cleaned up a few of them. That was it. It was just an idea of, I wanted to take this wrestling fandom of mine and this love of wrestling history and explore where things might have gone had Vince not screwed Brett at Survivor Series 97, had Vince not been the higher power, uh, had Kevin Nash not beaten Goldberg at Starrcade 98, things like that. I wanted to follow those trails because all wrestling fans do that, don't we? We watch something, we're like, well, what? We get mad and we're like, well, why didn't this person win? Why didn't that person lose? Why did that person turn face? We get mad at it, or we're invested in it. We want the story to go the way we want. So this was where might have it gone.
Of course. And do you know what? I will tell you that the best modern day example of that right now is WrestleMania 40. No, WrestleMania 39, sorry. WrestleMania 39, Roman Reigns retaining against Cody Rhodes. Because everyone thought Cody was going to win it then, but they just decided to keep the story going for a year, but they kept it like just, good in that sense. But there was always that kind of what if as well. What would you say your favorite what if that you wrote for WrestleCrap was?
Oh,
Not to put you on the spot here or anything.
No, it's fine. It's just there's a few of them. I don't know that I could pick a favorite. I honestly don't, because there's a few of them that really stand out to me as having been the most fun to write. What if DX got into the Norfolk Scope Like when they were doing the DX invasion of Nitro,
Mm-hmm.
there's a moment where they're trying to take the Jeep down in this little driveway into a loading dock, and you see the garage door close. And so I had the idea of, well, what if they didn't close the garage door? What if WCW said, come on in, be on Nitro? That one was fun. I wrote that story, no outline, no idea of where it was going. I wrote all 3 chapters of it in 5 days straight.
Oh wow.
Just a blister. It just like came out in a torrent of words, and it was really fun and crazy, but it was fun. Um, Having a different solution for who ran over Steve Austin. That was the first one that the end point was, and I knew where the starting point was, and the story just exploded as I was writing it. Suddenly Triple H was involved. Suddenly the Right to Censor group was involved. Suddenly Chris Benoit was involved. It was like all these people just kept getting involved in making the story bigger, and I was just as surprised writing it as people were reading it. So that one was a lot of fun to write just because of that. Just because it grew beyond my expectations. The other two, I would say, what if Goldberg beat Kevin Nash at Starrcade 98? That was my attempt to use rewriting the book as kind of an op-ed, because I think the you shouldn't have jobbed out Goldberg argument is weak.
Yeah.
Mainly because this was WCW 98-99. Do you really think that they were going to continue the streak and do it well? They weren't booking anything well at that point. They were the plane was going into nosedive at that point. So assuming that they were going to somehow keep Goldberg and the streak hot, I think is naive. And so this was my way of going, this, my events might not exactly have been the way things have gone, but it's a way to say, look, WCW was in a bad way. Expecting them to do a good thing in the middle of it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And this might have been where it would have gone. And the last one would probably be the last story that I wrote for WrestleCrap, which was about SummerSlam 97, the main event where Bret Hart was challenging Undertaker for the WWF title. And he had a stipulation of, if I lose, I can't wrestle in the United States anymore. And he won the match. Mine was, what if he lost? And he becomes this uber psycho dictatorial heel waging war on the company, but the company can't touch him because he's contractually bound to not wrestle. Yeah. And then there's an overseas event like a month later. I think it's at a pay-per-view in the UK, and he wins the belt. But now they've got a champion that can't wrestle. And so he's like holding the belt hostage. And that was one of my favorite angles in real life, was that Hart Foundation versus the world angle. So that was just, for me, that one was a very personal one because I got to revisit a time that I really, really loved.
Of course. And are these still available online as well, these journals?
Yes, not on WrestleCrap, unfortunately. A couple of years ago, WrestleCrap did a huge site redesign, and for some reason, rewriting the book has not been re-uploaded as part of that redesign. But a friend of mine has created an archive of them, which I can give you a link, and if you want to put it in the show notes,
yeah, I would love to.
I can provide that. So they are available. Just you have to do a little digging or know where the link is.
Of course, brilliant. And of course, obviously, on the topic of wrestling, I do have to ask. WrestleMania 41 is around the corner, and actually, the date that this episode is released will be the day of WrestleMania Night 2. do you have any current predictions for how the card is going to go?
Um, I mean, a lot of the matches seem pretty obvious that they're booking towards. Uh, I okay, so let's see. Undercard. Women's title match on Raw. I'm positive Rhea's not coming out of it. I don't know who would win between Io and Bianca. I think they're probably going to lean Bianca just to get the title in that Bianca Jade Naomi mix,
Yeah.
but I don't think it needs it.
No, I agree. I don't think it needs it because with Io, the whole gimmick at the moment is her being disrespected, and I kind of think that like WrestleMania would be the perfect time for her to kind of step up and kind of be like, "This is why you shouldn't disrespect me," kind of thing. I can hang with the main eventers, kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I
I would
see, but
agree.
I see what you mean by that's the hot storyline at the moment with Jade, Naomi, and Bianca, and I kind of think adding the title in that would kind of put more eyes onto it in its own way. But I agree, I don't think it needs.
Yeah, no, I would much rather see Io win. I'm a big Rhea fan. I don't want to see her with the title right now. I would, if I was picking, I would go with Io. Have her retain, like you said. Have her go. Look, you disrespected me, but I knocked off both these two. Who's next?
Absolutely.
The other women's title match, it better be Tiffy.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
Better be freaking Tiffy. Especially after that promo on SmackDown a week and a half
Oh
ago, where
yeah.
Charlotte buried her alive.
Uh-huh.
If I'm booking, Tiffany blows Charlotte out of the water. Like we're talking Goldberg style 4-minute squash.
Oh,
You you thought that I was just some little pretender, some little blonde Barbie doll? No, I'm here to play smack.
love that.
Just just have the story be that Charlotte's ego has gotten so big that she doesn't see anyone as competition and she so underestimates Tiffany that she just gets caught.
I love that. Yeah. Like a Goldberg Brock Lesnar type situation where like, Goldberg comes back, everyone's thinking, it's just going to be another 87 seconds. Yeah. No, do you know what? Yeah, I love that. I
Yep.
totally think that would be incredible.
I don't think they'll do it, but I think they're still going with Tiffy winning, but I think it needs to be a strong win.
Oh yeah.
50-50 does not get her back to where she was.
No, that's it. Because it's the sort of thing with that. It's like, do they just build up for an absolute banger at WrestleMania, or do they build it up for a squash match to prolong the feud and have it become like then the bangers will come after? It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah. The other undercard matches, Drew Damien, I don't see a way out of that doesn't hurt one or the other of them.
Right. Even if it was like a draw or something, that would still kind of because then you're
Yeah.
thinking, what's the point? But yeah, there's no way for that.
I want Drew to win just because I really like Drew. I think he's a great wrestler. I think he's, especially the heel run, he's been an absolutely phenomenal
Oh yeah.
character. Um, but I don't know where they're going with that one. Um, I'm struggling to think of the other mid card matches at the moment.
No. Yeah, it's by the time obviously they're still not all announced at this time,
Yeah.
but Kevin Owens and Randy Orton.
Oh yeah, that one. Randy. I'm sure they're going to have Randy go
Yeah.
over, which sucks, but
The thing is with that one, neither of them need it. Like because Kevin Owens he's been like looking weak. He's been putting other guys over for a very, very long time, but he still looks credible. He still looks strong and like maybe no longer main event sort of material, but at the same time, he is just that entertaining and his character development is just incredible. And like there's this whole element of like he is this just sort of unhinged kind of psychopath, but at the same time he's so unserious. Like he'll come out in like a Randy Orton vest, even though he's like literally, and I think they're teasing the punt far too much for Randy to not win with it at WrestleMania.
I would agree. I would agree.
How do you,
It's still kind of a like I get the heat behind the match too, but it feels like they really should have moved that. It they should have swapped that and Sammy.
yeah,
They should have had this match at Elimination Chamber, and KO Sammy should have been at WrestleMania.
I agree, 100%, 100%. I think KO and Sammy, it's like it's one that everyone's seen time and time again, but there's a lot more character behind it. There's a lot more of a spectacle. Whereas I think Randy and KO in an unsanctioned match would have been, I think it would have been so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even think of any other.
Jey Uso and Gunther, which I know is technically not supposed to be an undercard match, but really, let's not kid ourselves.
It's got the makings of a card match.
Yeah, this feels lower than the Intercontinental title match, to be honest. If they're, we know they're building to one. It's just a matter of how many people are going to be in it. But I could not care less about this. And if you had told me a year ago that I wouldn't care about Gunther, I would have called you crazy. But they have made Gunther so uninteresting.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm exactly the same. Like a year ago, I was just like, this guy's hot shit. Like, I really want to see him do well. And I was absolutely buzzing when they made him World Heavyweight Champion, but they haven't. I think the problem is they just haven't give him any credible sort of opponents in any way, shape, or form. Like, I mean, there's only so many times you can do Gunther and Sheamus. Like, it would get boring, but then it's the sort of thing, do they just trade the heavyweight title so many times? It's like Sheamus doesn't need it. Gunther needs it more. Yeah, there's only so many times you can do that much. Unless they did like Ludwig Kaiser, but then like he's not a believable heavyweight champion like just as much as Jey Uso isn't a believable heavyweight champion.
Yeah. And I think they've done Gunther really dirty in his reign by turning his character from the ring general to he's having a crisis of faith. He doesn't know if he can pull it off. He doesn't know if he's got the stuff anymore. Since when?
I know,
The dude
right?
had a 444 day or whatever it was, 666 day. It was like the dude has the longest.
Yeah.
He has the longest IC title reign in history. Why is he suddenly having a crisis of confidence?
Yeah. Would have been a whole different thing if this feud currently was for the IC title, would be much more believable and much more free flowing. But because like it's got such a sort of it's a main event championship, but it's not a main event feud, and it doesn't really add up. Now, obviously, of course, you're talking about like the other star power that's there. We have the other main event. The main event for night one is what it's looking like at the moment. Triple threat.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. I don't really. That's not a main event match to me personally. Like, of course,
No.
Punk's getting his main event, but it just seems like a bit of a cop out in certain terms of that.
I won't disagree. I was talking with a buddy about it the other day, and he's hyped for it, and I said, I've got nothing for it.
Yeah,
And it's not a slag on the players. The guys in it are great. I'm sure that they will have a banger match, but this feels like Seth versus Roman chapter 322 with a +1.
yeah, 100%.
I don't need the +1. I don't need Seth versus Roman again. Like we've been doing this dance for a decade. I'm tired of Seth versus Roman. It's the rivalry that has never been as big as it should have been.
Yeah,
from where it came from. So it just feels like a match.
yeah. I think with it, it's more kind of a sort of placeholder for finding out what the favor is at CM Punk's owed. That seems to
Probably.
be the kind of the stickler, the kind of what's keeping the eye on it as well. I know we mentioned the IC title as well. I think it's looking like Braun Breaker I'm from what I'm gathering, it's Braun Breaker, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and I've just it's gone out of my head. Who?
Penta.
Penta. Thank you. Yeah, that's. I would love to see Braun retain. I think he's incredible. But your thoughts?
Oh, I would love to see Braun retain too. I think Braun has got future main event wrestler written all over him. Dude's an absolute beast. He's got speed, he's got size, and he's got a personality. He's got everything that he needs to be a success. I don't know. I don't think that he's going to retain, though. I don't think he's going to get pinned, but I don't think he's going to retain. I think this is either going to be strap the rocket to Penta, or it's going to become a tool in the Judgment Day breakup.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can very much see either Penta, as you say, or Dominic pinning. That's the case.
Yeah.
Then I think obviously out of all the ones that we kind of know slash can speculate is the big one, John Cena, Cody Rhodes.
Of all the matches, I if you had said 2 months ago you'll be looking forward to Cena versus Cody Rhodes, I would have laughed. And now that's the thing that's selling the pay-per-view for me right now. That John Cena's heel turn has been captivating.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, I can't. I still have a hard time believing that they will end WrestleMania on a heel win because they've only done it a couple of times. But I really don't see how this goes anywhere but that.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, and the only other thing that kind of speaks to me about that is a potential double turn. But then I feel like John Cena's heel run would be far, far too short lived for that, because what I think would be kind of cool to see would be like, so obviously Cena's come out and he's not once acknowledged Cody Rhodes. He's just ripped into the fans for like his 2 or 3 appearances since, and Cody's come out every single time being like, this, that, and the other, yada yada yada, ripping into Cena, but Cena doesn't care. So and obviously there's been like the rumblings of a Cody heel turn, like people are there's the whole connection like Homelander from the boys, and there's like kind of heel Cody would be fantastic, but it's how do you do it? I think a double turn even at SummerSlam with against Cena would be like amazing, because it kind of gives Cena that sort of ability to sort of believably kind of finish the year out as a face and right off into the sunset, no harm, no foul, etc. And then we kind of get a good continuation of like Cody's story as a heel, as like the kind of chip on his shoulder, this, that, and the other. I carried this company for so long, yada yada yada. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of speculating here, but yeah.
I never thought of a Cody heel turn right now. That's an interesting idea. My assumption, my speculation for it at the moment has been that, I mean, it's probably the most obvious path. Cena wins, goes on a rampage for a while, beats all comers, but whether he gets too big for his britches, whether Rock screws him over, at some point something happens where he drops the title, and Rock turns on him, and the final redemption arc is him helping to put down the final boss and clear the path so that way Cody can reascend to the throne. That's been my guess.
Yeah.
Is it the most exciting story? No, but they can make it exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
When the Cena heel turn happened, I didn't know where they were going with it, and turning against the fans has been a genius stroke. You know, I won't change for you. I'm not changing my theme music. I'm not changing the way I dress. Little touches like that have been brilliant.
Oh
So
yeah,
between here and there, who knows? They could make this thing come together in a way that I never expected.
absolutely, 100%. There is actually something as well that like me and a colleague in work have been wondering this for the last while now. Elimination Chamber when John Cena turned heel, and like I wonder if you've had the same thought, but why was Travis Scott there, like in the ring? What was the purpose of that? Like, I don't know if you thought the same thing, but we've been racking our brains about this for the last 4 weeks now. Why?
I Yeah, I have had the same thought. Every wrestling media that I've seen has had the same thought of why was he there? What purpose did he serve? They haven't referenced it since.
Exactly.
He hasn't been back. It's not like it's a tree. They haven't turned the trio into a stable with a name or anything. It's just yes, Travis Scott was there that night, and
Punch Cody
we're
in the
moving
face.
on now.
Yeah,
Like,
that was it. And
yeah,
like,
it very puzzling.
I almost kind of feel like we're being gaslit with that one. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's just this
I'm
thing. They're gonna just turn around and be like, "No, he was never there." Just to get like give him the Benoit treatment, like at the end of it.
just put a big blue sensor thing on the replay. Why is there a
Exactly.
blue blur floating in the middle of the ring? No reason.
Yeah,
No
just
reason
like
at all.
it's got a neuralizer from Men in Black. I know. But Jed, it has been absolutely fantastic having you on Behind the Camera with Andy Games. I do appreciate your time. It's been amazing chatting video games, gaming in general, podcasting, wrestling, everything. It's just been brilliant. Just for the listeners, I'll put all the links obviously into the description of the show for this episode. But where can we all find you?
Okay, you can find the podcast everywhere that you find podcasts. YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, everywhere that if you listen to a podcast, it's probably on there. We're on Blue Sky, First Gen Gamers Pod. I'm on Blue Sky as well at Streets of Jed. Yes, that is a community pun. I'm also on Letterboxd at the same name. If you'd like to read my long-winded ramblings of movie reviews, we're also on Instagram, First Gen Gamers Pod, and I should plug my co-hosts stuff as well. F that is the name of her podcast. It's a true crime podcast. That is F that pod, I believe, is her name on all of her socials. Ashley's a lovely lady, and I couldn't do the show without her. So if you're going to give me a follow, give her a follow too.
Absolutely. Yes, Jed, thank you so much again for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a blast talking games, talking wrestling, just having a chat with a good person.
And same to you. It's been incredible. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And there you have it. That was my conversation with Jed Shaffer. Could very easily say that he was an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to gaming and pro wrestling, and even just having those common interests really made this chat a lot of fun, like two guys who've known each other for a while, just catching up. As always, this has been Behind the Camera with Andy Games. I've been your host, Andy Games. If you enjoyed what you heard today, any and all likes, comments, subscriptions, follows, and reviews are all hugely appreciated and do go a long, long way. We will be back soon with another installment of Behind the Camera with Andy Games, but until then, peace.